Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Jeff, we're covering a simpler time in NXT. I love this era of NXT. I'm excited to cover this match. Why'd you pick it?
Well, I had slated this one because before we knew that the King and Queen of the Ring would be no more, I wanted to make sure we were covering a women's match before that, and then they changed it on us. And so, but didn't want to change this up. I feel like we've got, Sasha's always in the news, or Mercedes, whatever you want to call her. Just no reason not to, in my opinion. I just think two of the best women out there, so why not cover it?
Good. I'm pumped to cover this one. I mean, we know the story of these two, mega stars, two of the best women's talents, I believe, in the history of the business. I'm really excited for this one. Jeff, let's get right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So these takeover events, man, I feel like there was a stretch where I don't know how many years it was. It was a couple years where there wasn't a bad show. There arguably wasn't a bad match. The crowds were super hot. The matches were all great. This is that sweet spot in my mind. Just fantastic. This was May 20th of 2015. So, gosh, 8 years ago, man. We're at Full Sail, 400 fans. Just good setup, good crowd. Good everything, man. Really, really fun. What a great era. The talent was just stacked. And not just
off the chart.
Yeah, not just stacked as to who they are now, but stacked at the time. Like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were still awesome in this era. It wasn't like, oh, it's a young Kevin Owens. No, he was as good then as he is now. All right, so we start off with, and I didn't know this, so Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson were known as the Mechanics.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, didn't know that. So, they were at one point called the Mechanics, and they defeated the Vaudevillains of Aiden English and Simon Gotch in a dark match. So, the show, Finn Balor defeats Tyler Breeze, number one contender match for the championship. Bayley and Charlotte defeated Dana Brooke and Emma. So, gosh, they weren't even on the main roster yet. This is crazy. Baron Corbin's going to defeat Rhino in 7 minutes. I liked Corbin better back then. I thought he was good in this era.
Yeah.
Blake and Murphy are your tag champions. They're going to defeat Paul Cassidy and Enzo Amore with Carmella. So, God, I love that presentation. I wish Enzo wasn't such an asshole. That was at 8 minutes. Then our semi-main event's the match we're going to cover. And then the main event, KO, Sammy. It went no contest in 13 minutes. Here at the Payoff, we like decisive finishes. So storyline standpoint, how do we get to these two women facing off for the NXT Women's Championship?
Yeah, I got a bunch of notes, but I'll go brief on this one. They had a lot of back and forth, like leading up to this match, plain and simple. That it was Bayley, Charlotte, Sasha, Becky. They were having constant matches. There was all kinds of things. There was heel turns. There was face turns. There was just all kind of stuff. We just recently covered on the Payoff, go back in the archives, that Takeover Revival match. It was the fatal four-way between all of them. Really, what it boiled down to was Lynch beat Bayley and Charlotte in a triple threat match to earn a match against Sasha at this show after Sasha had the belt through the fatal four-way. And so there's almost too much to cover. Like we had the area where, Banks attacking Bayley. And so that was her heel turn. You had Banks as well, too. She beat Charlotte a couple times. She beat Alexa. You have this match match. Like there was just all kinds of stuff that they were having. I had Team Bay as well too, best at everything, great team name. Just all kinds of stuff, with these guys these women working together. And so, really not much more else to say. They were having a lot of matches because they were the best that there was in the women's division there. And so why not let them keep having matches? Let's just get into it.
Well, one thing I want to look at real quick. What was the date? Okay, so it couldn't have been long after this. They all got called up in 2015.
I'm going to talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, good. The big women's call. Okay, so that's not too far from. I'm like, it has to be pretty soon.
It's about 2 months. Yep.
Okay,
I will cover it. Yep.
Got it. Good. Okay. All right. Let's get into this one. So we are at the 1 hour, 15 minute, and 30-second mark. That's Jeff. When Jeff has to do timestamps, he does those pesky little 30 seconds.
I get those 30 seconds on you. Yep.
1 hour, 15 minutes, 30 seconds. Season 2, episode 2 of the NXT Takeovers. Jeff, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do it. All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
That ultimate prize of being women's champion.
All right, who do we have on commentary here?
Challenger on your right with the fiery red hair.
I will look.
Sounds like Josh Matthews.
With the boss in the back.
I don't even know if he did NXT commentary. It just sounds like him.
Take a look here.
Yeah, see if you can find out. I cannot find it. So the boss looks like the boss. Becky's got the super orange hair, huh? A little oranger than later on.
This is pre-steampunk Becky, yes.
God, you can just tell how good they were, man. And still are, but it's just so good. What's going on with Sasha? You follow this closer than I do.
Yeah, so it's super interesting. Like, we're not seeing her in many matches because they just wrestle a different schedule in New Japan and Stardom and all that stuff. And so you're not, they don't have a weekly show like we're used to. So, you might see her once or twice a month, depending on what's going on, but that's it. And so, that's all you're going to see. Now, I think that,
hold on,
like,
clarify something for me. They don't have weekly TV even in Japan.
Yeah.
They don't produce weekly TV there.
There might be some shows, but it's not like we're used to with Raw and SmackDown. No.
Okay, so they're not doing a 2-hour show every Monday night in Japan.
No.
Okay.
And so a lot of it is done, like you see these press conferences, and so they'll do the press conferences. Yeah. There is a build for a lot of these things, but a lot of it is built on previous matches. Like, you see the press conferences are a really big deal to them. Like, I know we see AEW and WWE doing it now, but that was a long staple in New Japan and all that stuff. I think that obviously the walkout is true at this point. Like, she has signed other places, and so she was that unhappy. And so I think with some of, if it's the rumors are to be believed, and with Vince and stuff like that, I can't blame her. And so I think that it's one of those, like, she will make a bigger name for herself by leaving, because the pop when she does eventually come back is going to be it's going to be Cody level. It's going to be insane. And so,
I had no ill will or blame on her for leaving. I think it just makes a lot of sense. And you're right, man. When she comes back, Jesus.
So I think that, like, you've got that going on. I think that, she is signed over there and has been having matches. She's the champ over there right now as well, too, in one of the promotions. And so I think it's really just she needed to get away. I think that they have found a home for her over there. I think that she will have some incredible matches with some of the stars over there. Her first match was a little shaky. Her kind of second match got a lot better. I get it. It's the nerves. Like, it's just how it is. And just kind of developing a new character. That's, playing it, what it is. And so, Yeah, I think it'd be a couple years, I think, before we ever see her back in a WWE ring. I think it will be WWE over AEW, but it's still just crazy. Yeah, all of it.
The women's division seems to be really firing on all cylinders right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And where I think what I'm really happy about is, and this is where I think they've lacked, is I don't feel like the women's division let's just call it prior to Triple H, okay? I don't feel like the women's division had anything happening unless the Raw or women's title was involved. So there was no, hey, these are, this is, Trish and Becky squaring off just for the hell of it, because there's actually a storyline here and there's actually a build here. So I like that. I want more of that. I don't want everything to have to be, okay, well, this is the champion on Raw. Someone's going to challenge her and there's your program. Mm-hmm. I want the tag titles to mean something. I want there to be women's tag team champions.
Yep. Yeah. So I saw an interesting thing I post on Reddit the other day, because it was talking about Roman. It was after WrestleMania, and I just hadn't had a chance to talk to you about it. It was one of those wrestling fans nowadays would have lost their minds in the 70s and 80s when it comes to belt changes, because they never changed. And so when people get upset at these long title reigns, nowadays, even as what he's had it for 1,000 days or whatever it is, that's not a big deal. Back in the 70s and 80s, even as part of the 90s, the belt never changed hands. And so I think that times have changed, and so you kind of have to. They're trying to get people over and stuff like that. But I think it does kind of bring up some interesting points. And with what you said too, there should be and even I go back and forth. I think there's too many belts to begin with, but also there isn't a whole lot of stakes with some of these things either, unless there is a belt. Now, do we get the occasional good matches and stuff? Yeah, absolutely, without the title being in the picture. But also there's a lot of times too, I think Bray and Seth, where the belt should never be in the picture. And so, it's just kind of crazy to me. And this is one I'm with you. I hope the draft helps. It sounds like there's going to be some call ups. The tag titles could be a thing again. I think that's part of why Sasha leaving. I think they were obviously promised the tag titles, and then they just kind of got shit on. And so, there's a whole lot at play there, but I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I understand the women's tag titles may not main event WrestleMania next year. Okay, I get that. But I feel there's a happy medium where you can still make them mean something. You have, look at this arm bar or whatever. Holy shit.
It's crazy, yeah.
It's a hell of a match, by the way.
A lot of good action, yep.
I mean, you watch this and you're how in the hell were they not on the main roster?
Right.
Here's another crazy thing. How are you still calling the main title the Divas Championship?
Oh yeah, at this point,
for two reasons. One is okay, maybe it's time to call it the women's belt, right? Number two, in NXT they called it a women's belt. Mm-hmm. So how on the main roster are you not sitting there going, hey, maybe we shouldn't call them divas? Maybe that's not I don't know. It's just crazy to think about how it took them so long. And it's not, I get it in the 90s when you said, hey, well, we didn't push women's wrestling because there was no women's talent in the world. That was actually true. There were 10 women in the world that wanted to wrestle. Okay. Mm-hmm. By this stage, you watch them and you're okay, how are we not doing women's stuff? Mm-hmm. Why are we doing divas pillow fights? These women can fucking work. It took them two things. It took them way longer than it should. Number two, Jeff, is the way they did it with Stephanie McMahon stepping up for the women. Okay, give me a break. It was I just thought that was so stupid. Whatever. They were on the main roster. It was great. I just thought the way they presented it of Stephanie McMahon standing there with them, we're going to give these women a chance. let them just debut. Like, you don't have to be you don't have to have your fingerprints on this at all. I actually thought that hurt them, to be quite honest.
Well, I think there's a few things here. I always like sharing that quote from Stephanie McMahon where she's like, philanthropy is the best PR. And so every time they do some of their philanthropy stuff, like she, quoted as, it trying to make them look good and stuff like that. But on the flip side, it was, while the fans wanted it organically, it was forced on them because fans were revolting. And so they had to do something about it, which we'll talk about in the aftermath here. They had to introduce the women. I think part of it is why you were bringing women in previous to this was not to have wrestling matches. It was to have bra and panty matches. Like, that's just how it was. Yeah. I think it has proven, though, like, especially some of the wrestlers that have had longevity, like Trish can work. Lita can work. Like the Trish heel change, a couple weeks ago was great. And so, and while retirement match, Charlotte, all that other stuff, like, I get it. They got the itch. You see it all the time. Like, she wants to get back out there. I know Mickie James is hurt, but Mickie James has been extremely successful over an Impact quietly. She just had to give up the belt last month or whatever it was because she was hurt. But like, that's going over. Like Lita, like, even like, I get that WrestleMania match may have protected them a little bit, but at the same time, I don't think they needed that. Like, and I think it speaks to they, like, some of the others, like, who was this guy, Kelly and, some of these others, like, they're getting in. Like, I feel they were hired through Divas searches. They were models. They weren't wrestlers. And I get that now WWE is more built to have some of those people. It's great seeing like NXT nowadays. Like, there's some people that I'm excited to see them come up and kind of what they do and things like that. But these were these women, Sasha, Becky, all them, like, they were the ones that really set the mold on this, though. Like, they were the ones that were, I think, were, changed the industry for really going out there and wrestling and doing this stuff. Not to say there weren't some before, but the overall culture didn't change until they started going out and having these matches. And this was like I said, this was before the women's revolution.
Oh yeah. And Jeff, I look at when you talk about women's revolution, evolution, women's wrestling, I look at this in phases. And so I don't point to, women's wrestling is what it is because of Charlotte or because of Trish and Lita. I look at this a little bit differently, and I'm curious your take on this. So let's go back to, at least in our lifetime, let's go back to the 80s and Sherry Martel taking these crazy ass bumps and showing a woman can be at ringside and add tremendous value to the product, right? And she obviously wrestled a little bit too. And then you think of like Miss Elizabeth and, her contributions. Medusa, Alundra Blaze. I mean, like, I liked watching her as a kid, and there wasn't much to do with her, but like when she was in the ring, I took it seriously and I was interested and I liked that character. Sonny and Sable. What they did, again, for women having a place on the card, and being a big part of it and selling merchandise and driving ratings. China, without China, again, she was massive. Okay. And then you had the Trish and the Litas and the Victorias and the Molly Hall. I mean, you had all these women that worked matches, but again, the booking was suspect. And then you have this wave of women and everything they've done. So I just think it all builds off of each other. And, how much of this does not happen without Sonny and Sable in China, right? I mean, like, are all these women getting into the business? Is Charlotte Flair still want to be a wrestler? So I just think it's very, very interesting to go. But man, we can all sit here and say, oh, well, I wanted women's wrestling forever and I knew that were capable of this. You're lying, okay, because you just didn't know. But man, like, you look at it now and you're like, they do a Royal Rumble that I look forward to. They do a Money in the Bank that I look forward. I mean, I love it, like, genuinely, not because, it's the right thing to say and, you should put women, like, it's really, really good. Okay. And if someone said, "Oh, the WNBA is just as good as the NBA," okay, I know you can't say, "Oh, that's not true," but you just kind of nod your head. Anyone that says these women are putting on matches that are on equal, you're damn right they are. Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley was off the charts fantastic. Like, it's just, to me, it's just so awesome what they're doing, not because people are trying to be politically correct, because it's just that good. And it's so awesome to see that.
Yeah, well, and even to your point, like the women's basketball championship did gigantic numbers, huge numbers. Even I was watching it, like it was great. And so,
and you know who the next big stars are the twin basketball players from Miami.
The NIL stuff, yeah,
they're going to be. Whatever the Bella twins were.
Yep.
Multiply it by 10, because these women have a following. Women's wrestling's way more popular. WWE's hotter than it's ever been. Social media, obviously gives a ridiculous platform. These women are going to be massive stars once they learn the business.
Well, and they just said they weren't coming back to focus on other endeavors. Like, yep, I know what that means. Like, you're gonna go make money. Like, yep. And so it's interesting too. And so I don't want to give away too much on the air right now, but we talk about Sasha being in New Japan and Stardom, and you say China, and I didn't know this until I saw a clip recently from a match. She had a run in New Japan in intergender matches. And so like there's a clip. Oh, Jesus, crazy fall there. It's one, but like,
Submission.
that's going to be it. Yep. It looks like.
It has to be, right?
Yep. And there's the tap. Real quick. Like, yeah. So that's something I'm digging into, is like kind of some of the,
you must have not seen the A&E documentary yet.
I have not. No.
Okay. They cover it in there. You got to watch the China one. I mean, it's a little gut wrenching because of, some of her personal issues, but they cover that. I mean, she looked like $1 million.
Yep, she really did. So, all right. So that's Becky tapping out to Sasha. Okay.
Dude.
Very good. Yep.
Excellent. All right. Let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
Well,
yeah, really good. We talked through like women's wrestling through the match, but we were watching it the whole time. Like, there was not a down moment in that match. So there was some good reversals. There were some great moves. Sasha retaining, playing the heel character really well right now. Yeah, just really good stuff overall. What'd you think?
Dude, I like excellent. I mean, not that I'm like surprised, but that was fantastic.
Yeah, it really was. And we know the
finish was great.
You go on to have so many more matches. Yeah. That corner knees too looks brutal every time she does it. Yeah. So on this one, so yeah, like
I'll tell you the other thing, Jeff, they're flying. Like they worked really, really fast. Like, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and they're selling like that is like Michael's level of like not crazy selling, but like selling for your opponent. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as Tom talked about here, and we've talked about through the match here. So it was actually Becky made her debut. It was July 13th, 2015. So about 3 months after this, along with Charlotte and Sasha. It was, of course, Stephanie McMahon calling for the women's revolution after it was all the divas and stuff like that. You had Lynch and Charlotte allying with Paige. And then you had who they were feuding with Team Bella at the time, who was Alicia Fox and the Bella twins. You had Banks lining up with Naomi and Tamina. And so all the teams having the brawl. If you remember, there was the weird period where they called themselves the Submission Sorority, and then they found out that was the name of an adult movie. And so they had to change their name from the Submission Sorority to Team PCB of Paige, Charlotte, Becky. Good catch on that right away. And so, yeah. But Lynch, we know what happened. We don't need to get into it. Like, they had that feud when they first debuted culminated. It was actually SummerSlam. It was a 3-team elimination match with Lynch pinning Brie Bella to win for Team PCB. Banks at the same time, though, she actually ended up dropping the title to Bayley. As we know, Bayley kind of stuck around. We're kind of getting a Yeah, even I still got the match on here. A little bit of a send off here for Becky. Yeah.
Moment for Becky Lynch right now.
After losing. Yep.
Those were so fun, like the old send offs,
The send offs. Yep. Absolutely.
Bailey and stuff. Like, and it was just, God, they had it dialed in, man. I hope they can get back to it. I really do. But man, they just had this shit so dialed in with, where it fit on, hey, we want you to go to the main roster and we're pulling for you and you're one of our own. And yeah.
Yeah, no, and these were really great moments. Every once in a while you get Triple H to walk out, or even like the whole locker room walks out if you really know they're leaving. And so you don't know if, the send off. We didn't know at the time, like they could have been talking about the women's stuff, but yeah. So but overall, like I said, they ended up having this match. It was good. Banks beat Bailey. Or of course, we had that 30-minute Iron Woman match as well too, which we've got that. And so yeah, just really good stuff overall. So Sasha coming in at 3 on the PWI, Becky at 17. The write-up on this one here: Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks for the NXT Diva titles. Becky had a cool new look with orange hair and steampunk gear in all caps. Now, this was excellent pro wrestling, and you should all see it. Better than anything at the pay-per-view 3 days ago, which was Payback at the time. Sasha made her exit, then they left Becky in the ring to soak up the standing ovation, and the crowd sang her song. She was still sad though, and her arm hurt. I watch wrestling because sometimes, rarely, I get to see stuff this cool. 4.25 stars. So Tom, where are you putting this one?
Dude, I 8.5.
Yeah.
Match was great and kind of how it fits into history. I think it's fantastic.
I too am going to go an 8.5. Only it's hard because they did have so many good matches. There were so many points that you could say kind of springboarded the storyline or kind of what happened in the future. Like just really great stuff. Like there's nothing to complain about here at all, which is why it's just really, really good. And so yeah, I'm at an 8.5 too. It's zero to complain about. Yep.
Good. Yeah, we both loved it, man. It was fantastic.
Yep. So real quick, I want to remind everybody, of course, make sure you're checking out our sponsors, manscaped.com, using that promo code PAYOFF. You're getting 20% off and free shipping. They got all kinds of new stuff, whether it's the weed whacker nose hair trimmer, whether it's the beard hair trimmer, you're trying to look good for summer, whether you want the old, you keep it OG, the lawnmower, just keep your balls looking good, whatever you need. Use that promo code PAYOFF for 20% off and free shipping, everything in the store, whatever you're looking for. And then, of course, True Classic Tees, Payoff 25. Makes sense. You're getting 25% off right there. Everything in the store as well, too. Great stuff. Menswear, shirts, boxers, pants, like whatever you're looking for, hats, jackets. They got just about everything. Accessories as well, too. They've been adding. So make sure to check that stuff out as well, too. And that's True Classic Tees or trueclassic.com. Payoff 25% off. So Tom, let's send them home. I'm going home happy. Let's send the fans home happy.
Yeah, this was great. Another fun one, man. Closing in on 200 of these, having a blast. Let's do another 200. And as always, we appreciate you listening. Hit us on social media. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you like and don't like. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Payoff.